Have you ever stopped to think what you would do if you saw a defenseless life in danger? Those moments when your heart freezes and a decision must be made in milliseconds? Well, get ready, because the story I'm about to tell you today isn't just about a rescue. It's about the kind of courage that reminds us what it means to be human, and the compassion that can break any barrier, even between such different species. Imagine the vastness of the African savanna, where life and death dance an eternal ballet under the scorching sun. It's a place of wild beauty, but also of unimaginable dangers. And it was there, amidst the heat that made the sand shimmer and the air smell of dry earth, that an unlikely encounter changed everything. An experienced park ranger, with years of walking under the endless sky, was on her routine patrol. She had seen it all: relentless hunting, the birth of new lives, the silent majesty of big cats. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared her for the scene that was about to unfold before her eyes that afternoon. What she found wasn't just a cub, but a small creature trapped, its fate sealed by human indifference. It was a tiny lion, barely a handful of fur and bones, caught in a way you can't even imagine. Can you believe his hope was hanging by a forgotten piece of iron? It was a scene that squeezed anyone's chest. And from that moment on, every second would count. The life of that little king of the jungle hung by a thread, and nature's clock waits for no one. That wasn't just a call to duty, it was a call to the soul. And you won't believe what they did to save him. The epic ending that unfolded under the watchful eyes of the savannah. Stay with us, because this journey is just beginning. The twilight painted the sky orange and purple, and the sweet scent of blooming acacias hung in the air when Amara, with eyes trained for every nuance of the savannah, noticed something was wrong. It wasn't the usual rhythm of wildlife, but an unusual metallic gleam in the tall grass, a muffled sound that seemed like a distant cry. It was intuition, you know, that voice you learn to hear when you spend too much time with nature. And it was that voice that guided her to the edge of a dry riverbed, where the unexpected awaited her. There he was, a small lion cub, perhaps only a few months old, incredibly trapped. His head was wedged in a rusty steel pipe, abandoned there by who knows who, perhaps a remnant of some human construction that nature had already begun to reclaim. The despair in the cub's eyes was palpable, a gleam of panic mixed with an exhaustion that squeezed the heart. Can you believe that? Such a powerful being, future king of a vast domain, reduced to complete helplessness by a human error. Amara felt the weight of that cold metal, imagining the agony of that small body struggling to breathe, the metallic taste on the cub's tongue. It's amazing how an animal can show us the fragility of life, isn't it? Amara knew there was no time to hesitate. This was a race against the clock. The heat of the day was beginning to fade, but the threat multiplied with each passing minute. The cub, with its soft, warm fur, seemed like a bundle of nerves, but the park ranger, with the experience of having removed illegal traps and saved other animals, kept her calm. Interesting fact: lion cubs are born with spots, which help them camouflage in the savanna's tall grasses during their first few months, a vital disguise for survival in a world of predators. Think with me. In moments of crisis, we don't have time to overthink. We have to act. And that's exactly what Amara teaches us here. She didn't focus on fear, but on the solution. A tip for our daily lives: when life puts you in a tight spot, take a deep breath and focus on what you can do, not what you can't. That's the courage we talk so much about, but only truly understand when the moment comes. This small, defenseless creature awakened an immense strength in her, a compassion that became the engine for immediate action. But Amara wasn't alone in that vast expanse, and the danger was just beginning to reveal itself. With the pride watching every move, Amara knew it wasn't a time for individual heroism. It was the team's turn. The wind carried the strong scent of damp earth from a distant waterhole, but everyone's attention was fixed on the shining eyes of the felines lurking. Juma, with his quiet strength, and Laya, with her agility and knowledge of the terrain, were the pillars Amara needed. They didn't need words. A glance, a gesture, and the understanding was mutual. Have you ever felt that connection with someone, knowing what the other thinks without saying a word? That's how a true team is built, especially when a lion cubs. Life depends on it. The steel pipe was a silent, relentless enemy. It was too deeply buried, and the cold, hard material gave no quarter. They tried to pull, to twist, but the cub whimpered in pain with every movement. Frustration was a bitter taste in their mouths, almost metallic like the pipe. The mother lioness, impatient, took slow steps towards them, and with each heavy paw on the soft sand, Amara's heart beat faster. But they couldn't give up. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but action despite it, and those three were the embodiment of that. Impressive curiosity. Did you know that lions, despite being formidable hunters, use teamwork for complex hunts, encircling prey and coordinating attacks in a sophisticated manner? This shows us that collaboration is a successful strategy not only for us, but also in the animal kingdom. And it was precisely this group intelligence that Amara and her team needed to demonstrate. And here's the lesson for us. When faced with a colossal challenge, seeking help and trusting your partners isn't a sign of weakness, but of intelligence and strength. How many times in life do we try to solve everything alone and realize that an outstretched hand would make all the difference? Amara, Juma, and Laya together represented the hope of that small being. They knew that every tool, every movement, every strategy would have to be precisely thought out. Time was running out, and the decision they would make next would be crucial. As Juma and Laya worked to stabilize the pipe, Amara's gaze never left the cub. The warmth of its small body, even through the metal, radiated a silent plea that she understood. It wasn't just another rescue. It was a unique life with its own smell of damp earth and crushed grass, waiting for a chance. Have you ever felt that instant connection with an animal? That feeling that your soul recognizes itself in its pure gaze? It's a magical, almost spiritual moment where language barriers fall away. Amara began to speak to the cub in a low, soft voice, as if comforting a baby. Her words were murmurs of encouragement and promises of safety, even knowing that the small creature wouldn't understand Portuguese. But the voice, the tone, the energy, that animals understand in a way we often underestimate. It's a known fact. Many animals, especially young ones, are incredibly sensitive to tone of voice and body language, reacting to calmness and tenderness. This unconditional compassion, expecting nothing in return, is one of the noblest qualities of human nature. On the horizon, the mother lioness roared again, a guttural sound that made the ground tremble, bringing back the harsh reality of the savanna. Amara knew that the connection with the cub was important, but the most crucial now was with the mother. She, with her protective instinct sharpened by the smell of human sweat and her son's distress, was either the biggest barrier or the biggest ally. Trying to build a relationship of trust in that scenario seemed crazy, but Amara, with her experience, knew it was the only way to ensure the rescue didn't end in tragedy for anyone. The lesson here is clear. Empathy transcends species. It doesn't matter if we are dealing with a frightened animal, a coworker, or a family member. The ability to put ourselves in another's shoes and act with kindness can disarm the most difficult situations. Have you ever acted purely out of compassion, without fear of the consequences? Amara shows us that love can be the most powerful weapon. But for this connection to flourish, she would need an act of faith from the mother lioness, a challenge that would test the limits of trust on both sides. As the tension in the savanna mounted, with the lion's golden eyes fixed on every move, Amara couldn't help but wonder, why was that cub in such a situation? The cold, inert steel pipe was a remnant of some abandoned human activity, a scar on the natural landscape. The smell of rusty metal mingled with the scent of grass, a bitter reminder of how our presence can sometimes leave devastating marks. Have you ever found yourself reflecting on the impact our daily actions have on the world around us, even the simplest ones? That trapped cub was a painful symbol of human responsibility for wildlife. It wasn't a natural disaster, but a carelessness, an abandonment. And there was Amara and her team, not just to rescue a life, but to correct, in some way, a mistake that wasn't theirs. It's almost as if the universe, with its warm, dusty breath, was reminding us that we are guardians, not owners of this planet. The work of conservation is not just about protecting species, but about understanding that every action, no matter how small, has a consequence, a fact that makes us think. Estimates show that millions of tons of waste, including plastics and metals, are improperly discarded every year, and a significant portion ends up in natural environments, becoming deadly traps for wildlife. What happened to that lion cub is a vivid example of this. It's shocking, isn't it? But it's a reality. The lesson here is clear. We are part of a delicate ecosystem. Our footprint on the planet can be one of destruction or salvation, a practical tip for our daily lives. Think twice before discarding something. Reuse, recycle. Small attitudes make a huge difference. Amara felt the weight of this responsibility, but also the strength it brought. It was the motivation to go further, to use her courage and her compassion, not only for that cub, but for all beings of the savanna. But the biggest barrier to the salvation of that little lion was yet to be broken: nature's own trust. With the sun already kissing the horizon, painting the sky with shades of ember and smoke, the savanna air felt dense with anticipation. Amara could smell the peculiar warmth radiating from the mother lioness, a mix of ferocity and apprehension. She knew that to save the cub, it wasn't enough to have strength or technique. Something much more subtle and fragile was needed: trust. And in the wild world, trust isn't earned with words, but with pure intentions and often an immense risk. That mother lioness, with her amber eyes, represented the purest instinct of protection. She didn't understand that the humans there wanted to help. For her, their presence was a threat. It was like trying to convince a frightened dog that you won't hurt it, even if your hands are extended for good. Have you ever tried to calm down a wary animal, feeling the delicacy of each movement, the importance of each breath, not to scare it? The situation there was 1,000 times more intense. Every step of the mother lioness was a vivid reminder of the fine line between a successful rescue and a tragedy. Fascinating fact. Did you know that wild animals, like lions, are masters at reading body language and non-verbal intentions? Any abrupt movement, a direct and aggressive gaze, can be interpreted as a threat, even if the intention is to help. This highlights the complexity of earning trust in such unpredictable environments. The lesson here is powerful. True trust is a two-way street. It cannot be forced. It must be earned, especially when there's a history of fear or unfamiliarity. In our daily lives, whether in a new friendship or a professional challenge, building that bridge of trust requires patience, consistency, and above all, respect. Amara took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth rising to her nostrils, and made the riskiest move of all. A gesture of submission, of calm, showing the mother lioness that her intentions were peaceful. But this desperate attempt at connection was about to be tested by the oldest and most powerful force of nature. With the mother lioness just meters away, growling softly, a sound that vibrated in the park ranger's chest, Amara's team knew every second was precious. The steel pipe, previously just an inert object, now seemed like an impregnable fortress, a cold, relentless barrier between the cub and freedom. The savanna air, once hot, now carried a strong scent of tension and sweat. As Juma and Laya leaned over the task, they tried to pry, to hammer, but the metal wouldn't yield, and each frustrated attempt was a greater risk, a clearer invitation to the mother lion's fury. It was a test of patience and creativity. How to remove such a heavy, stuck object without harming the small creature inside? Amara's mind was racing, searching for solutions amidst the pressure of the wild gazes. There was no time for luxury or cutting-edge equipment. Intelligence and experience would speak loudest. They needed a new strategy, something that defied the logic of the problem. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the solution seemed impossible, and you had to think outside the box to find a way out? That's exactly what they were doing, with a lion cub's life at stake. Useful curiosity. In wildlife rescue operations, especially with big cats, speed and coordination are crucial. Improvised tools and knowledge of animal behavior are often more valuable than sophisticated equipment. Mental agility to adapt to the situation is a driving force for success. The lesson here is powerful. The biggest obstacles are often opportunities disguised for innovation. Don't give up at the first difficulty. Allow yourself to think differently, to use the resources you have creatively. And when working as a team, the sum of minds and strengths can move mountains, or in this case, a stubborn steel pipe. Amara, Juma, and Laya, with a final coordinated effort, applied a technique they learned in a remote training. A sharp hiss of metal echoed in the silent savanna. And then, something incredible happened. That sharp hiss, a sound almost like metal tearing through the savanna air, was followed by a collective sigh of relief. The pipe finally yielded. Amara, with a care that seemed unreal amidst so much tension, pulled the small cub out. It was so light, its soft furred body trembling in her hands, and the smell of sweat and relief mingled with the scent of warm earth. Can you feel that weight in your hands? The life being reborn there? It was a moment of pure catharsis. The cub, free, let out a faint whimper, and its eyes, once filled with panic, now held a mix of confusion and, perhaps, a glimpse of trust. Tichuan, Mother Lioness, who moments before seemed ready to attack, paused. She watched Amara, who gently placed the cub on the ground amidst the tall grass. For a brief instant, time seemed to stand still. The wind brought the fresh scent of the approaching night, and the savanna's silence was broken only by the accelerated beating of hearts. Then, with a slow and majestic movement, the mother lioness approached. She sniffed the cub, then Amara, and her eyes fixed for a long second, almost like a silent thank you, a recognition of the compassion that saved her. Who hasn't felt that an animal understands our soul, right? Notable fact about animal memory. Large felines like lions possess an impressive spatial and social memory. Although direct human interaction in the wild is rare, the cub's trauma and subsequent relief can create lasting associations, shaping the group's behavior and even a rudimentary form of recognition. It's something that makes us reflect on the complexity of the animal mind. This experience left a deep mark on Amara and her team. It wasn't just another day at work. It was a vivid reminder of their human responsibility in wildlife conservation. Each of them felt the weight of the cub's vulnerability and the majesty of the mother, and their connection to nature intensified. A lesson for our daily lives. Small acts of kindness and courage can have an impact that transcends the moment, reverberating in our lives and the lives of those we touch. Amara, her hands still slightly trembling from the effort, knew that day would change the way she viewed her work forever. The rescue was a success, but the story of trust was just beginning to be written in the sands of the savanna. The savanna, with its warm, dusty breath, continued its endless journey under the starry blanket of night. But in that patch of earth, something had changed forever. The rescue of the little lion cub wasn't just an isolated event. It was a testament to the power of compassion and courage that resides in each of us. Amara, Juma, and Laya didn't just save a life. They showed that human responsibility in wildlife conservation is a call we cannot ignore. This story is an invitation for us to reflect. What is our role in this great ecosystem? How can we, in our daily lives, apply the lessons of teamwork, overcoming obstacles, and trust that we saw today? Whether it's caring for our own cub, a dream, a project, a relationship, facing our lions, fears and challenges, or simply disposing of waste properly to avoid creating new traps, every act counts. The strength of the maternal instinct, the purity of wildlife, all this reminds us that we are connected. And you, have you ever had an animal that changed your life, that taught you a lesson of loyalty or overcoming? Tell us in the comments. We want to hear your emotional stories too. Life is full of epic moments like this, where kindness and bravery transform destiny. If this story warmed your heart and made you believe even more in the power of unconditional love, the next video suggested by YouTube will move you even more. Don't miss it.